I know I just met you all, but I want you to have faith. I want everybody to close their eyes for a moment. That means everybody. I want you to think of a dream or a goal that you've had that you have yet to actualize, and just hold that for a moment. Okay, now you can open your eyes. Thank you. We'll come back to that in a little bit. I love performing magic, especially with red silks. For me, the magic first began right here in Spokane. As a pre-med freshman at Gonzaga University, I would take the Spokane city bus once a week to the children's hospital, and I would perform magic for the patients and their families. I will never forget my first day going to the hospital. As quickly as I got on that bus, I almost turned right back around to get off. I lost complete faith in what I was doing. Who was I to think that as an 18-year-old college freshman, I could ever make any sort of tangible difference in the life of a child with a terminal illness? The proposition felt preposterous until I just did it. During my time at the hospital, I would often have mothers and fathers pull me aside, and they would say, "Thank you. Thank you for being here. This is the first time that I've seen my son or my daughter laugh and smile in months." I learned about the profound healing potential of magic. Harry Houdini once said, "In certain circumstances, magic not only entertains and amuses, but has the power to awaken hope that the impossible is possible." That hope, it begins with a single well-planted seed. I'm a program founder and previous program director with Magicians Without Borders. And today, I'm here to share with you some magic and stories from my experiences. It all began with a dream, and I used that dream to plant seeds of hope and sustainability. The mission of Magicians Without Borders is to entertain, to educate, and to empower the forgotten children of the world. And as I graduated from Gonzaga, I received a Fulbright scholarship to live, learn, and teach in Bogota, Colombia. As a part of my Fulbright grant, I was to engage in some sort of social program, and I always knew that program would involve magic and working with youth. And it was then that I partnered up with Magicians Without Borders. I worked hand in hand with the founder and the president of the organization, Tom Werner. And we began developing a program to teach at-risk youth the art of magic deep in the slums outside of Bogota. See, our goal for teaching magic is not necessarily to turn our students into professional magicians, but our hope is that through learning magic, our students will learn important skills such as focus, responsibility, and discipline. And more importantly than that, learning magic encompasses a serious component of empowerment, as we are teaching our students a unique skill that very few people have. However, I did have one apprehension to starting the program in Colombia, and that was, what would happen to our students and to the program when my year was over and it was time for me to go back home? I couldn't imagine just starting something to leave it wilt and become nothing. With that realization alone, I planted my first of what would be multiple seeds of hope and sustainability. I planted that first seed. As my mission and my involvement in our organization continued to develop, I created my own personal mission within our organization, and that was to enhance the sustainability of our existing programs. It was not uncommon for our students in India or El Salvador to go 3 or 4 months where they would be without any sort of formal instruction or magic class. And I realized that the reason for that was because all of our teaching magicians were stateside, when the lives of the children with whom we work with are completely inconsistent. They need to know that they can count on us for a source of stability. And I realized the key to creating that stability in the lives of our students was to meet local magicians and to empower them to invest in our cause. And when I realized that, I planted my next seed of hope and sustainability. Stephen Covey once said, "Begin with the end in mind." I held that close as we began our program in Bogota. It didn't take long, just actually a couple months, before I met Colombian magician Carlos Lopez. He said he was interested in our work. And just a few weeks after meeting, Carlos and I quickly became partners in all things magic. And now, 3 years after I left Colombia, Carlos continues to teach our magic students on a weekly basis. Carlos is now the director of not just Magicians Without Borders in Colombia, but in all of Latin America. And he has taken our programs to incredible heights. Actually, just a year and a half ago, Carlos led our students to speak at a TEDx event much like the one you're at today. And they received a 2-minute-long standing ovation. And about a month ago, I returned from a trip to New York City. And I got to meet up with Carlos, another Colombian magician named Pollo, as well as 6 of our magic students from Bogota. We performed 2 shows, one at a major conference called Performing the World, and another show at a major theater off Broadway in downtown Manhattan. This is the first time that our students have ever been on an airplane, the first time they've ever been out of their country, the first time they've ever performed for an audience that spoke a language differently than their own. And yet, they totally knocked it out of the park. I could not be more proud of our students. One of our students who was on that trip, I first met him about 4 years ago. When I first met him, he was quiet and timid. I later learned that he has suffered from abuse. That same student recently told us that magic taught him how to believe in himself. And that's what we do. We plant seeds, we nourish them, so that way they can grow. About a year ago, I had the opportunity to travel to San Salvador, El Salvador. 2 of our original magic students that began learning magic with us about a decade ago said they wanted to teach their own program of teaching magic to at-risk youth. They wanted to pay it forward. Their names are Maricela and Peter. As my month in El Salvador was coming to a close, the idea of starting a program with Maricela and Peter was beginning to feel more and more impossible. Maricela had a demanding job that she couldn't get away from to teach magic once a week. Peter was equally as busy. Additionally, travel from their hometown to San Salvador, where we would host the magic classes, was about 3 hours round trip for them, and it was incredibly dangerous. We didn't even have the funding to pay for the logistics of the program. It was just feeling impossible. And I lost complete faith in my entire month in El Salvador. Was I just forcing my own agenda on these people? Is this really something that they want? But then I reminded myself, magic requires faith, just like this. It requires the ability to suspend all rational judgment and to believe in something much more powerful than ourselves. And when I reflected on this, that one night, just days before I left El Salvador, almost overnight, everything magically came together. Maricela had a job change that would then allow her to teach the magic classes. Peter cut back on his commitments, and we received an anonymous donation specifically for that program. And just like that, it all came together. Now, almost a year and a half later, Maricela and Peter have been teaching the same group of students magic on a weekly basis. And they perform numerous shows at large events, and they've even made national headlines. We could not be more proud of Maricela and Peter, as well as their students. And see, all of this, it began with a dream, and it began with a seed that Tom planted nearly a decade ago by teaching Maricela and Peter magic. I returned to El Salvador to work with Maricela and Peter to nourish that seed that Tom planted. And now that Maricela and Peter are nourishing that seed, they're turning it into a beautiful flower. Much like in El Salvador, we also have a new program in Costa Rica. And that program is headed up by Costa Rican magician Diego Vargas. And he is teaching his own group of students magic. And we are so proud of the work that he's doing. And recently, Diego traveled to El Salvador, where he met with Maricela, with Carlos, with Peter, and Tom. And here's what happened while they were there. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed that video as much as I do. It never gets old every time I watch it. I mean, just look at that girl, right? It's so awesome. But see, that's what we do. We love what we do. I love what we do. And all of it began with those seeds we planted. Yet, my direct involvement in our programs right now is rather limited to that pesky little thing called medical school. However, our students, our programs, and even our teachers continue to grow, to develop, and improve every single week, of every single month, of every single year. And I was thinking about this. Why is that? Why does this continue to grow and build upon itself? And I realized it began with those seeds that we planted, and by empowering other magicians to nourish those seeds and to invest in our mission, they are the ones that have taken our programs to where they are now. And it all began with that goal that I talked to you about earlier, and planting those seeds. And one of the key things that I realized as a part of that process to making those seeds flourish was a very simple act. Just by verbalizing my goal, it immediately made that goal become alive. When that goal became alive, the universe provided exactly what we needed to make it happen. Author and philanthropist Tony Robbins once said, "Setting goals is the first step of turning the invisible into the visible." And see, we always teach our students an important lesson. It's a very simple lesson. It's not necessarily about what we do, but what's really important is how we do it. We can do anything, but if we don't take care into how we're doing it, then it's just not quite the same. And that goes for anything in life, and this is a particularly important lesson in magic. So we actually tell our students very concretely what this means. What it means is that actually 10% of the magic is the actual trick. The other 90% is the way in which we present it. And I want to show you an example of what that means. So check this out. I have this red bag. Actually, it's pink, but on the inside, it's red. I want you to watch this bag closely, because if you look away for just a moment, you will actually no longer be able to recognize it, and it will change right in front of your eyes. So this is an example of, well, it's a cool trick, but I didn't really engage you as the audience in the process of creating the magic. So now we're going to try to do it one more time. All right, check out this beautiful bag I have. It's green on the outside. It has these beautiful ladybugs. On the inside, you see this great pink color, and you have these blue, white, and yellow flowers. And I'm wondering if maybe some of you recognize this bag. In fact, I've never seen it before. I actually found it right outside the theater before stepping on the stage. And I'm hoping that maybe I can return it to its rightful owner. But the thing that's important is that it's important to keep your eyes on the bag and make sure that you're watching it, because if you don't, and it is yours, you may no longer recognize it anymore. So you can see it's the same effect, right? But I performed it in two completely different ways. And it's pretty clear, at least to me, which way might be more entertaining for you as the audience members. And in fact, see this zipper right here? Remember that red silk from earlier? I said I love performing magic with red silks. I'm hoping that maybe it returned. Passion is contagious. Empower and inspire others to invest in your mission. So I want all of you to think back to that dream that you visualized right when I stepped on the stage and I had you close your eyes. What is stopping you from making that dream come alive? Today is the day to change that and to start taking steps towards making it become reality. And it all begins with simply verbalizing it. Sometimes a dream or a goal can feel impossible. And today, I'm here to tell you that nothing is impossible. Consider the magic you've witnessed in the last 13 minutes. I empower and I encourage you, and in fact, I beg you to plant seeds of sustainability, proceed with patient persistence, cultivate magic, because when you do so, the impossible will become possible. Thank you. Thank you.